My good friend Pattabhiraman sir, எனக்கு வந்து 12-13 வருஷமாக தெரியும். ப்ரைம் அகாடமின்னு வெரி பாப்புலர் கோச்சிங் சென்டர் நடத்துவார். அப்போலேருந்து 2014 எனக்கு அவரை தெரியும். ஸோ அவர் என்னை கேட்டுக்கிட்டார் தட் ஐ ஷுட் லான்ச் ஹிஸ் புக் வேலெட்டுங்கிற புக்கு. அதை பற்றி சில வார்த்தைகள் பேச சொன்னார். ஐ எம் வெரி ஆனர்ட் பிகாஸ் அவரை மாதிரி ஒரு மனுஷன் வந்து என்னை இந்த புஸ்தகத்தை லான்ச் பண்ண சொன்னதுக்கு. இந்த புஸ்தகத்தில் வந்து பேசிக்லி ஹீ டாக்ஸ் அபவுட் வாட் இஸ் ஃபினான்ஷியல் லிட்ரஸி அண்ட் what all it can do, what are the basics of money. And money in action is finance. So before I start, I want to tell you this. நான் என்ன சொல்லணும்னு நினச்சேன்னா, பணம்னா என்ன அப்படின்னு. We all think money is a property. ரூபா நோட்டுங்கிறது ஒரு ப்ராப்பர்ட்டின்னு நம்ம நினைக்கணும். பட் ரூபா நோட்டுங்கிறது ஒரு பேப்பர் தான். நீங்கள் இங்கேருந்து வெளில போயிட்டு துபாய் வரைக்கும் வேணால் அந்த ரூபாவை ஒரு இந்தியன் வாங்கிப்பான். பட் யூ கோ அவுட் சைட், கோ டு யூரோப் ஆர் சம்படி, இந்த ரூபா நோட்டுக்கு மதிப்பு இருக்காது unless you meet a fellow Indian. So what is money? The only universally accepted currency wherever I have traveled are two. ஒன்று US டாலர், ஒன்று கோல்டு. மற்றபடி நீங்கள் எந்த ஊரில் போய் இன்னொரு கரன்சி கொடுத்தா வாங்கிக்க மாட்டோம். ஸோ உங்கள் பணம்ங்கிறது வந்து கன்னியாகுமரியிலேருந்து ஸ்ரீநகர் வரைக்கும், பங்களாதேஷ் பார்டர்லேருந்து கங்கா நகர் ராஜஸ்தான் வரைக்கும், பிகாஸ் தென் யூ கிராஸ் ஓவர் டு தி பார்டர் ஆன் தி அதர் சைட், இது வரைக்கும் தான் வேல்யூ. அண்ட் அதில் அப்புறம் அதுக்கு ரொம்ப ரொம்ப மதிப்பு மரியாதையெல்லாம் கொடுப்போம். அதில் ஏதோ அப்படியே கடவுள்லாம் அப்படியே தொட்டு கும்பிட்டு எல்லாம் பண்ணுவோம், திங்கிங் தட் தெர் இஸ் சம் வேல்யூ இன் தட். அது ஒரு வேல்யூ குப்பை. Demonetization showed you that it is குப்பை. And if you didn't realize it is குப்பை, it is sad. It says, I promise to pay the bearer the sum of so and so. So we have now a computer engineer who is a RBI governor. These days you have to, you can be anybody and be an RBI governor. You can go give it to him, sir, you have signed this. So are you going to give me 2,000 rupees worth of gold or a 500 rupees worth of gold or silver or anything? He will say, no, this is only a promise. What is that promise? It's a promise. So you get nothing. So it's only a legal tender where we exchange goods and services between ourselves. What are the value? So it is not a property that's something we should love, worship, keep it in black and do puja to it and all that. It is only a storehouse of labor. I work for 8 hours a day. I get X amount of money. எனக்கு 10 ரூபா பணம் கிடைக்குது. நான் 5 ரூபா செலவழிச்சிட்டேன், 5 ரூபா பேக்கெட்டில் வச்சுருக்கேன்னா I am storing 5 rupees. At the end of the day, whatever money you have stored is only storing excess labor. Money is nothing but உங்களோட வேலைக்கு கிடைக்கிற ஊதியம் தான். You are exchanging either the service or the product you make for a accounting entry. That accounting entry can go up and come down in value depending upon the country you live. Unfortunately, we live in a country where the unit keeps on going down. So you have to keep dancing to that also to make sure that your value is protected. You know, a lot of people tell me, I know I invested so much money 3 years back and it is now 100 ரூபா போட்டேன், நீ 150 ரூபான்னு. 3 ரூபாய்க்கு முன்னாடி, 3 வருஷத்துக்கு முன்னாடி, in terms of dollar, we would have been about 75. You are now 93. So who is going to give you a deduction in that? 3 years back, gold was about 6,000 rupees. Today it is about 16,000 rupees. So the reality is you have not made any money. So you have to first understand that money is only a method of accounting your labor and which you have stored. Okay? And there is no universal rule. You can either measure it in dollars or you can measure it in gold. There are only two standards. How much ever we may hate America like I do, we cannot change the rules of the game. There were three currencies totally. There was the Dutch guilder originally. The Dutch guilder gave way to the British pound, and the British pound gave to the US dollar. And as far as limited understanding, there is no currency that is going to replace the US dollar anytime soon. And that is why you are having a mega run in gold because nobody wants to trust any currency. A Chinese citizen will not trust yuan, let alone you trusting yuan. Okay? Nor will a Russian trust the ruble, and the euro is a basket case. So we don't have any currency to compete with the US to take it away. So you have to live with it and you have to live with gold for the time being, say next 15, 20 years. And the transition from one country, one reserve currency to another reserve currency takes 20 years. It took between World War One and end of World War Two to officially transit from the British pound to the US dollar. So let's start with understanding what is money. Money is only surplus labor stored in whichever form you want. Now, having said this, all of us work for the month so that at the end of the day you get a paycheck. And that's about 80 to 85% of the population sitting here. Hopefully, they will get a job, they'll get a salary, and they want to spend money. That is, பணம் வரும் பணத்தை செலவு பண்ணணும்னு நினைக்கிறீங்க. Unfortunately, என்ன ஆகும்னா, of the thousands of people I have met and seen their balance sheets, less than 2% will have money after 5th. ஒன்றாம் தேதி வரும், அஞ்சாம் தேதி பணம் போயிடும். And at most பத்தாம் தேதி போயிடும். So from next 10th to 30th, they are waiting for the next check. And that he has talked about in this book. One thing you have to understand, money is 99% psychology and 1% finance. So there's a need and there's a want. If you want to buy a gene, you can buy flying machine or you can buy killer jeans, it's a gene. But you want to pay through your nose to buy Levi's, that's a want. A car is a place which takes you from one place to another. So you can buy a 5 lakh, 10 lakh car, or to show yourself that I have arrived, you can buy a 1 crore car. But most of what I have seen in life, நான் லைஃப்பில் பார்த்தது, most people who flash this kind of money are basically living on borrowed capital. So what is borrowed capital? In this borrowed capital is basically you are pledging slavery. If we are supposed to abolish slavery. So basically you are selling yourself to the bank. When you buy a house, you think you have bought a house. No, you have taken a loan. The bank owns the house. It's going to own it for next 20 years. So if you bought a house for 1 crore, you will end up paying 2 crores to the bank. And the bank makes all the profits because after 2012, if you have bought a house, you are not going to sell for a profit after accounting for interest and property taxes. So the modern day slave owner is all the banks that we have. So it's a product, lending is a product which systematically transfers money from the poor to the rich or from the middle class to the rich. The rich own all the banks, right? And the middle class borrows. And sometimes what happens is middle class also has some shares in banks or through mutual funds they own banks. And what they do is their salary account you get 4%, 5% interest. And they think, I'm very smart, so let that money be there. I'll borrow to buy a television at a higher rate. So you lend the money to me, the banker at 4 or 5% annum, and borrow it from me at 16%. So this is the greatest rig game in our society. And there is so much instant gratification because your mind is a 2,500-year-old mind. 2500 வருஷம் old brain working in a current situation where fight and flight and instant gratification are very important. ஸோ எப்போதுமே உங்களுக்கு ஏதாவது ஒன்று பார்த்தா உடனே வாங்கணும். என்கிட்ட காசு இல்லையா எவனா கடன் கொடுத்தா வாங்கணும். Basically, you are selling yourself. If you are bought a house on loan, basically you are now given away 50% of your life for the next 20 years to work for the bank. If you stop paying the loan, Within 6 months, he will just pull the loan, sell the house to the next highest bidder. And if he sells it at a lower price, you are liable to make up the difference. அதுதான் Surface Act. So this is what he says in the first chapter. Doesn't go to such details, but he says, please know what is your need and what is your want. And what I told you, அதையும் சொல்றார் அவர். Inflation is your enemy. There's only one thing. நான் நிறைய இடத்துல சொல்லியிருக்கேன், நாட் வெரி பாப்புலர். 100 நிச்சயம், 125 லட்சியம் டாலருக்கு. தட் மீன்ஸ் யுவர் குட்ஸ் ஆர் கோயிங் டு பிகம் ஸோ காஸ்ட்லி. 2 3 months back it was 88, 99, 90. Today it is 93, 94. Meaning, don't go by the value you see there. You go to the bank will ask you 3% markup to give you the dollar. So 94 ரூபா. If you are buying something for $1, you are paying 88 rupees. Now you are paying 94 rupees. So that way, your oil value is declining all the time. இப்போ நீங்கள் வீட்டில் எல்லோரும் பாம் ஆயில் வாங்குறீங்கன்னா, palm oil in the last 25 days has gone up by 10 rupees, 12 rupees, or you will find next time when you go there to buy, you will find it has shot up by 15 rupees. So money erodes in value. That means your labor is eroding in value all the time. இது ட்ரெட்மில் ஓடுற மாதிரி தான் அது. யூ ஹவ் டு கீப் ரன்னிங் இன் த ட்ரெட்மில் டு மேக் மனி மோர். ஸோ வாட் ஹஸ் சேஞ்ச் இன் த லாஸ்ட் 50 years? ஹி கேப்சர்ஸ் இட் வெரி வெல். என்சிபிஐன்னு ஒன்று ரகுராம் ராஜன் உருப்படியான கவர்னர் இருந்தார். He started National Payments Company of India. So what he did is he made checks. One of his great ideas was to make checks redundant. ஸோ முன்னெல்லாம் நாங்கள்லாம் செக் கொடுத்துட்டு அதை போய் துரத்தி இன்னொரு பேங்க்கில் ஃபீல்டு பண்ணி பாஸ் பண்ணுற நாள்லாம் இருந்தது. செக்கை பர்ச்சேஸ்லாம் பண்ணுவோம் மேனேஜர்கிட்ட. இப்போ அதெல்லாம் கிடையாது. நீங்கள் போட்டிங்கன்னா அடுத்த நிமிஷம் உங்களுக்கு அக்கௌண்ட்டில் வந்துடும். ஸோ யூ நோ செக்ஸ் ஆர் டெட். யூ கேன் யூஸ் ஆர்டிஜிஎஸ், யூ கேன் யூஸ் இம்ஸ், யூ ஹேவ் நெஃப்ட் ட்ரான்ஸ்ஃபர்ஸ். So checks are dead. So basically your 1 day time, 2 day time to make a payment has now been reduced to an instant payment. That is the revolution he is talking about. It is called the universal UPI revolution. We have gone one step further by using Google Pay, which is built on UPI, which is built on that UPI app, or Phone Pay or WhatsApp Pay. Two of us can transfer money to each other without even using cash. That is what I told you. It's only a unit of labor where you are paying for somebody else's labor. That is the big revolution that has come across. And we have led the world in that. But it has not finished black money. Most of the big transactions in UPI are 500 rupees and 1000 rupees. So money is neither white in color nor black in color. The only idea is whether I want to pay tax on the money I have earned, or whether I don't want to pay a tax. And the same money will keep changing. So black money ஒழிச்சிட்டோம் அதெல்லாம் இல்லை. It has just made our life far more simpler. So what he then says is that we all have to make a budget, which I keep saying that. The Japanese have a book called Kekebu. Kekebuன்னு ஒரு புஸ்தகம் இருக்கு, which is more than 125 years old, which tells you how to write a budget. And all that budget has to be put down. Weekly, quarterly, monthly, all this expense most of us know. What are our weekly expenses, monthly expenses, quarterly expenses, annual expenses? I prefer writing in hand because you need muscle memory. People use apps. One thing I slightly differ with this book is the concept of emergency fund. Since I know that money is always losing in value, and even if I put it in bank, it will lose value. Whether you put it in terms of fixed deposit or RD, I prefer to keep my emergency money in gold because I am sure it will increase in value. So this is what it is. And all of big companies understand psychology well. The whole idea is to make you buy. The biggest success story is Apple. Even most people who own Apple phone in India have no business owning one Apple phone. Okay? And there are a lot of apps which advise you on budgets and all that. But for sake of muscle memory, I wish that you would write it on your உங்களாலே நீங்களே எழுதுறது better. Compound interest is a magnificent thing. Somebody said it's the eighth wonder of the world. It is. But the easiest way is not to understand it by Taj Mahal. If you look at an exponential graph, அது வந்து எக்ஸ் ஆக்சஸ் குட்டியே வரும். சடனாக இட் வில் ஜஸ்ட் ஜம்ப் அப் டு தி ஒய் ஆக்சஸ். இது உங்களுக்கு புரியணும்னா, Buffett took nearly 60 years to make this first 1 billion. And between 60 and 95, he made 300 billion. If he had retired at 60, nobody would have known Buffett. There are many billionaires. Buffett was also a billionaire. But between 1 and 300, so the first 60 years, he started at 11. So the first 49 years of his life, he spent in getting to 1 billion. And 1 billion to 300 billion, of which he has given away 150 billion, took him only another 35 years. So that is compounding at work. That is exponential power at work. So I quote his friend Charlie Munger in terms of adjustment to India, and this number keeps changing. முதல் 25 லட்ச ரூபா சேர்க்கறதுக்குள்ள உங்கள் உயிரே போயிடும். I'm talking liquid asset, not your house or land, or which are all dead assets, which can be converted to cash in next 2-3 days. First 25 lakhs is a drag. But once you cross 25 lakhs and don't touch that money will start working for you. That's when you start thinking of compounding. So compounding starts at 25 lakhs and nothing less. And he feels gold is emotional, but in the last 30 years, and 30 years is a lifetime for most of us. Our working period is 30 years. In the last 30 years, gold has beaten all investments comfortably unless you are a genius and you have picked about a bunch of 15, 20 stocks or even 50 stocks in India and in US. Or if you had bought Dr. Reddy when it went on an IPO, or you bought Infosys, or you bought Google. There are 50, 60 exceptions to the rule, but not all people in this room can buy those 50, 60 inventions. Gold is safer, has been safer, and as long as Trump, Putin, and Xi Jinping and our leader is there, it will continue to be safer because we don't, there is no value for money at this point of time. We don't value money. Like he has to return $150 billion. The Supreme Court has said that he has to return $150 billion. He doesn't have that $150 billion. He says, I will not pay you. This will go for 2 years and then he has to pay. He has to borrow that $150 billion. He has no money. He has gone to war. He's already spent $15 billion. He's going to borrow to spend $15 billion. So all this is money, don't even need to be printed. All the Federal Reserve has to do is just tap the finger and the money is created in the bank. In India, the RBI just touches the button, money is automatically created in State Bank of India. And so since we have come to that stage, we will keep producing money at astronomical rates. The quantity of money is unlimited and the quantity of gold is very limited. Therefore, gold will keep going up. There is no other secret sauce to that. He talks about the dollar cost averaging, what is now known as systematic investment plan. It's a great concept. Only thing you have to be on the right side of the market. If you get caught on the wrong side of the market, you are finished. Like what do I say? Like in Japan, in 1989, there was a big crash. The index fell from 40,000 to 8,000 and it spent next 35 years trying to catch that peak. Only last 24 months back it crossed that peak. Okay, so you say Japan is a different story altogether. It's not going to happen here. இங்கே நடக்கவே நடக்காது அப்படின்னு சொன்னீங்கன்னா, in America, let me tell you, the crash happened in 1930 or 32, whenever the Great Depression started. It took 1954, one world war, 25 years it took for the Dow to cross 800 again. From the first time it dropped from 800 to the second time it crossed 800, the gap was 25 years. Imagine somebody who was sipping all those 25 years, what would have happened to him? So you have to be aware what is happening in the market. Last 3 years, people who have sipped would have lost money. Then he turns his attentions to loans and credits. I have told you what I thought of loan. Personal level. I am not talking about a company level. At a personal level, you are selling yourself into slavery. How much of yourself you want to sell is a choice that you make. Basically, Most of us do this without thinking that we are selling ourselves into slavery. And taxation, most of us don't have to worry about direct taxes because up to 12 lakhs you don't pay tax. And if you are self employed, you don't have to pay tax till about 30, 40 lakhs a month, year. And so, but this is a problem with us. We don't want to pay income tax. The rich have to pay tax. The poor should not pay tax. Unfortunately, in India, the reverse works. The rich don't pay tax. I don't pay tax. But my driver pays more tax than me as a percentage of income because GST is same. Whether he uses the petrol or I use the petrol, we'll end up paying the same money. My consumption as a percentage, the consumption as a percentage of my income won't even be 5%, whereas his consumption as a percentage of income will exceed 100%. Therefore, he pays more tax than me, and that's why we are where we are. He talks about insurance. In my opinion, you need only two. If your parents have not left you money and you have not accumulated a lot of money, then you are leaving behind people to take care. So something goes wrong with you, you need a term insurance. And you need a health insurance, a pakka health insurance, because you don't want to be burden on your loved ones when you are lying in hospital. Stock market, he has done all the basics, and everybody will know that. He talks about the role of SEBI, and SEBI is very important, though at times toothless. But finally, law does catch up at some time or the other. So SEBI is very important. It has made things a lot more easier. And every journey, when he says that very importantly, நம்ம எல்லாருமே ஒரு சிங்கிள் ஸ்டெப்பில் ஆரம்பிக்கணும். A 1,000-mile journey also starts with a single step, and we should take a single step. He goes in great detail, explains about real estate, he talks about buying and renting, he talks about RERA, he talks about REITs, and he talks about location, black money, and all that. I have some differences. The black money era is not over, in my opinion. The other thing which I disagree with him is real estate should be treated like a bond and you should see how much return you are getting. If buy an asset for 1 crore, the rent is your yield, and the yield does not even give me 6-7%. I won't touch that because government of India is paying me 7.5%. Then he talks about mutual funds, which is very good. He talks about the difference between SIP and lump sum. He talks about NAV misconsumption, which is very important. Most of us do not know what is an NAV. Expense ratio, which is very important, whether you want to go direct or whether you want to go regular. And he says, past performance is no guarantee of future performance. In the Indian market where most of us have invested today, 2018 to 2021, 22, or even to 23 was very good because you were coming off a bounce of COVID. So you had great mutual fund returns. The reality check is right now when those returns are not there. And he talks about financial frauds, which is a very important thing. He talks about Ponzi schemes, digital arrest, and phishing. These are all very important concepts. I know a lot of old men who have been siphoned out of their life savings by young girls, not real young girls, agents, or the girl, that is the computer generated young girls talking to them over phone and walking away with crores of rupees. So this is very important. He has really covered what is cryptocurrency. He has also talked about how you should plan. He talks about you need a 10 crore corpus. He must have done his math. I have never looked at that. He looks at employee provident fund, and he does say that looking at a job, which is very important, which I want you to understand, that உங்கள் சம்பளத்தை வச்சு வச்சு நீங்கள் பெரிய ஆள் ஆகிட முடியாது. You cannot retire. You should have 2 3 different sources of income. And he talks, the most important thing he speaks is about lifestyle inflation. So this is where it is. And so when do you start to save? He says your first salary is the day you start. I want to remind you that Buffett started when he was 11, 7 years before he got his first salary. So how did he start? He used to go, his grandfather had a big showroom, grocery shop. He used to buy four cokes at the cost of three, sell all the four cokes door to door, get that margin and start investing. And the first company he bought was City Gas. There's another great investor, Peter Lynch. His father died early, so he worked in the golf clubs. And by caddying, he bought some Tiger Airlines, which helped him to go to Wharton. So all these guys started before they went to college. They were in college. So, and he talks about global finance, which I've already told you. And he talks about crypto, which is very important in today's world, which is being treated as an alternate route. But in my opinion, your UPI and digital currency is as good as any crypto. The time I was given is over, and thank you very much for listening to me. I wish Patabi sir and Ase Tambi sir all the very best with this book. It's a very important piece of literature and must read for all people who don't have any concept of money, finance, and who want to start. You start by understanding what is money, who are the regulators. The RBI is a regulator, SEBI is a regulator. Who are the players? The scamsters are also players. He has covered it in great detail. So it's a great service to society, and I hope many people read this book. Thank you once again.